Okay, can we call the meeting to order there? We get the interviews done later. Thank you, Brent, Don. Okay, we're back from closed session. I have a motion moved by Bev Cutting, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby returns to open session of Council at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, Mark. And Mark, you can show that there are only those, the three matters that were stated were the only things that were discussed in closed session. There's nothing arising. Consent agenda. I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson and seconded by R. Hergert. Be it resolved that items A1 to C1 inclusive contained in Part 1 consent agenda be adopted as printed, and further that authorization be given for actions to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein. Questions on the motion? Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
Not a question. I believe I need to declare a conflict on the planning minute motion. Planning minutes. That were a motion on the planning minutes here. So.
Yes, you had in the on the planning minutes. So noted. Any other comments on the consent? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. All right, Mark, and I'll ask you to hand out a couple of motions to take effect. Then that moves us down to communications from Mayor and Council. Do any of the council members have communications? Councillor Lawrence.
Thank you. First of all, on behalf of the Durham girls, we will, as a council, be getting a thank you note, but on behalf of the Durham girls, thank you for partnering with us for the Durham 175. That was May the 1st, the 175th birthday of the founding of Durham. It was, I think, quite successful. We had a full town hall. If anyone cares to see it, it is on YouTube on Whip, I don't know, under Whip or Whipper Watson. It's on his Facebook. He videotaped the entire thing. And to start the donations for the walkway bridge, the Durham girls donated $100, and in total there was over $500 raised in donations towards the bridge. So we're hoping that that will start a fundraising endeavor, and hopefully we can get someone to spearhead that and see what we can do. Also, now in Newstead, we had the craft show. There were over 600 in attendance, 501 paid admission, many children, and 80 vendors. So it was very successful. And I just want to, if I may, remind people that there will be a free bus going to the county on May the 13th. May the 13th. We already have been there on May the 13th, and I thank everyone that attended. Going on the 25th, there will be a free bus at the credit union parking lot, and it will be leaving at 7:30. We do need your support to support the long-term care beds staying in Durham. And I'll let somebody else talk about OSUM. Mr. Mayor, I've said enough. But I did attend OSUM. It was a good conference.
Excellent. Any other comments? Councillor Hutchison. Doug?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank all those people that may have participated in the West Grey Clean Sweep on Saturday. There were different groups from different parts of West Grey that took part in cleaning up their roadsides in their area, and hopefully that everyone's working towards making West Grey a more beautiful place than it is today. Also, it was the Hazardous Waste Day was on Saturday, and I know first time I went there, it was lined up in both directions down the road, so by the time I got back there the second time, rather than waiting for an hour or so, I come back later and it wasn't quite as busy, but there was a very good turnout. Lots of people are taking their hazardous waste and recycling, which is great. So that's a good sign. So yeah, so thank you to those people that participated, and we do have signs out there for anyone who wants to take on a section of West Grey Road to look after it and keep it clean all year long. So thank you for that.
Very good. Anything else? Rebecca, Councillor Hergert.
So on Thursday evening, I was able to present some awards for young children at the Optimus Youth Awards in Ayton, and that was put on obviously by the Optimus. Marg Rapp was in charge of that, and we had lots of firefighters out and police officers to hand awards out. It was a very good evening, and we have some fantastic youth in our presence. They're really going to be doing some big things. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Anyone else? That was at OSUM. No. Yes, Councillor Lawrence, you'd mentioned the OSUM conference, the Ontario Small Urban Municipalities in Blue Mountains. What was that, from the 4th, 5th of May, just after our last council meeting. A lot of good sessions, a fair bit of conversation on contracts. Negotiation was one of the things with our frontline full-time firefighters was involved. Just a lot of good speakers. Had the leaders from the two opposition parties were there. The Minister of Municipal Affairs was there. Parliamentary Assistant to the Premier, Ted McMeekin, spoke, as well as I said, Andrea Hovarth from the NDP and Patrick Brown. I don't know if with the other individuals that were there, the way the numbers were thrown around, were you as confused as I was by the time they finished on how many schools were being built and how many schools were being closed? Yeah. Wow. I don't know how they balance the budget when they keep coming up with numbers like that, but oh, they don't. Thank you, Mark. But very good conference, and certainly an excellent place to have one in certainly here in Grey County. All reports it was very well attended, better than last year in Goderich. I thought that it wasn't, but by the time the numbers come out, they were above what it was last year in Goderich. Part of it being that it's spread out just a little bit more. We were very concentrated in the recreation complex last year in Goderich. So anyway, very good. Congratulations to everybody on the clean sweep, and I would like to say to Joyce Noon, who got the hot dogs and everything at the Ayton Fire Hall Saturday. That was well attended. Joyce did a lot of work on getting everybody organized for the cleanup, and it's one thing, it's nice to see everybody out, as Councillor Hutchison has said. It's just a little disgusting that we have to go and pick up so many Tim Hortons cups and plastic water bottles. That I didn't know over the winter that so many people had their windows open, that they must have just flew out of the car somehow. It couldn't have been perceived to do that, but we've got the roads cleaned up, and thank you to the roads department for helping get everything put away as well too. So hopefully at some point in time we can get people that will, we can get 99% of the population that will look after their own garbage instead of using the municipal roadways as their landfill and dumping area. One other thing, last Wednesday, one of our businesses had a complimentary dinner, Gemini Signs, in Newstead. Each year they put on a dinner for the seniors in Newstead and surrounding area, catered dinner, just to say thank you to everybody. A lot of door prizes, and good for Gemini. They do twice a year. They have the big open house and barbecue, sometime usually in July, possibly in August, depending on when they have it. In the summer, when they open up the factories, open up the doors to the factory there, and they're doing very well, and just their way of saying thank you to the community. So that was on Wednesday, and I attended that. Craft show, Carol, you've got to be thankful for cool, wet weather. It just drove everybody into the arena. Nobody was outside working, so they all came to the craft show. Very good again, and compliments to the organizers down there for that as well too. And the other thing, I guess, unless Mr. Bell, you want to comment on? Go ahead. I won't talk about county council meeting. You can talk about that.
No, the one thing that I did want to bring forward from OSUM conference, I thought it was very significant, and it does impact a lot of people around here. Apparently, the provincial government has taken off mandatory septic cleanouts in the rural municipalities. There was thought that that was going to have to be done every 2 years, but apparently they've rethought that position, and I think that should be make a lot of rural people very happy in this part of the world that they're not going to do that now. So what the next line of thinking is going to be, I don't know that, and that was not suggested, but Minister Morrill did say that mandatory cleanouts, which were going to happen every 2 years, who was going to track that, and the logistics of that was going to be phenomenal. But they apparently have taken that off the table, so I think that's good news for everybody in the country.
Now, there are some municipalities out there that are requiring it, but it's not going to be a provincially mandated for all municipalities, so you'll be able to have that. Good point. May 11th, Councillor Lawrence has said there was a large delegation from public at the county council meeting. We had a lot of information on long-term care and what the recommendations from staff on the Grey Gables and Rockwood discussion that's going on. There was no decisions made. The warden had said that there was a lot more new information come forward on May the 11th, and that there would be a recommendation coming forward to be put onto the floor on the 25th. And Carol, you said that there will be a bus leaving Durham again for any of the residents that want to jump on and take a ride up. Right now, the staff, through their research and whatnot, have come up with that the 2 homes, 100 beds in Rockwood and 66 in Grey Gables, that they be joined, that it be somewhere around the best way to save the long-term care homes in operation by the county. Of those 166, that the 2 homes be put together, and the recommendation, the preferred point after a lot of staff investigation and whatnot, is to have that happen in Durham. So we'll see on the 25th how that's received and what the votes are at that point in time, but there was a lot of good information, and there's certainly a lot of interest on how this is going to turn out. So we'll see on the 25th if anybody wants to come up. And most of the information, there was some closed session articles, but for the most part it is all on the county website if anybody wants to go and do further investigation on that information. Councillor Lawrence.
I just wanted to mention the bus, and yes, it is. There will be a free bus, but if anyone wants to be on that, if they would contact Nella, either at the West Grey Chamber of Commerce or at the bookstore in Durham, just to register. But it will be leaving at 7:30 from the credit union parking lot, and we really need people's help one more time. We need to take a good delegation, a big delegation up to the county. So anyone that is interested, please contact Nella.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. So is there anything else from anyone? Okay. Then I do believe that we have a delegation on this evening, Mark. We have a young gentleman that is a gold medal winner. And something in my academic career that I cannot claim. It's not that funny. Come on now. No, it's just, yeah, I got the participant ribbon, yeah, but it's the truth. And I'm going to see if this mic, because I have And we can give this to Wayland. Yeah, it is. Wayland? Yeah, might as well. Master Tone, if you can come forward, please. I've got a little certificate, and I have a pin here for you as well, too. You've got enough chest left with that gold medal that you can put the pin on as well. There's a 150th pin, and you can see some of the councillors and myself wear that one. So that's the 150th pin for Canada that's coming up. And here's a when you get to be my age, you got to take glasses off to read, okay? So here's a certificate for you in recognition of receiving a gold medal at the Junior Blue Water Regional Science and Technology Fair for your science project. You're itching to know what causes us to scratch. This is outstanding achievement, speaks well of your commitment and dedication. Congratulations from all of West Grey Council and all of West Grey for making us proud and representing us. So, Wyland, thank you very much. Congratulations. Now I'll give you a trick. Now you've got to hold that up so that Mr. Crosby there, and that's not the hockey player, Mr. Crosby. He's just the media guy. Now I understand that you are going to give us a bit of a background or some education tonight too as well. You've got a PowerPoint presentation for us. So I'm going to turn the mic over to you. Can you use the mic and do this whole thing?
Okay, so...
You think you can?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The floor is yours, sir.
So, yeah, I did a project on what causes us to scratch and itch. So the reason that we do scratch and itch is a long time ago our ancestors used it as a defense system for small but potentially harmful creatures that are crawling on our skin. So I replicated that by tickling some people's arms with a feather, which gives the same feeling as something crawling on your skin, just like if a mosquito, something lands on you. You have to scratch. So I did this because I have Tourette syndrome, which is like an itch in my brain that causes me to do something that I can't control. And I have some reasons why we scratch itches over here. So like poison ivy, morphine, kidney disease, insect bites, infections, wool, allergies, and like scrapes that are healing. And I have a chart with the cycle of when you scratch an itch, serotonin, a chemical in your brain, travels down your spine to give relief to the itch. But sometimes when it's traveling down your spine, it can miss a little bit and jump it, and then that causes your brain to get confused, and the itch comes back even worse. So, yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna play the video now then.
Warms up. Just be a minute.
Can you get the lights down?
Just get a second here. to the Life Noggin. Here's a good life tip. Stay away from three-leaved plants. I actually touched some poison ivy and I can't stop itching. I didn't think animations could get itchy, but you learn something new every day here on Life Noggin. While I scratch away at myself, let's talk about why the itching occurs. For a while, scientists thought that itching and pain were detected by the same nerve cells, and then interpreted as different sensations in the brain. However, we know that that's not actually the case. Granted, there is a class of nerve cells called C fibers that can detect pain, itch, and heat, but that class has a specialized group that we can blame our itchiness on. Well, that group and that stupid poison ivy plant. I will get you back. Essentially, when a stimulus like histamine activates one of these nerve cells, a signal is sent to the spinal cord and up to the brain. Here the signal is processed in the somatosensory cortex, and you experience an itchy feeling. And take it from me, even though scratching may be extremely tempting, don't do it. It's thought that scratching stops the itch because you are now stimulating touch and pain receptors in the same area. The key word there is pain. You can tear and irritate your skin, so pull the hand away. Chances are, while you've been watching this video, you may have felt itchy yourself. That's because itching is contagious. In fact, studies have shown that watching someone scratch an itch activates the same parts of the brain as scratching yourself. So what started as a way for our ancestors to get dangerous insects off their body has now become one of the most frustrating sensations we have to deal with, especially if it's in the middle of your back or on my arm, poison ivy. I'm sorry. Tell me in the comments if this video made you itchy, and what do you do to make that feeling go away. Make sure you come back every Monday for a brand new video. As always, my name is Blanco. This has been Life Noggin. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to keep on thinking.
Very good.
So have you got time for any questions? Have you got the answers to all our questions? There's a better one. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Bell. John? Turn on your microphone.
Not so much a question, just comment. Congratulations, Wyland. Going out there and doing a little public speaking and a little research on a subject that you're interested in can only maybe lead to bigger and better things. Now you have lots of family there, and look forward to being having maybe a doctor in front of your name someday or something nice like that. So congratulations, and keep working at it. It's great to see the fruits of your labor when you do a specific project and then you're judged by your peers and you have the best project going. So the gold medal's pretty special. So cherish it.
Anybody else? Where did you, how far have you been away with the presentations? Like in your own school, to Owen Sound, to Toronto, to...
Only in grade 5.
Yeah.
So Owen Sound was as far as I could go. If he would have been in grade 7, he would have been going to Saskatchewan this year. So maybe in a couple of years.
Well, that's the next question. This is the problem once you get it. It's a good problem to have. Each year you've got to do a different project. So you already got it figured out what project you're going to do next year?
No.
But you're going to compete again, aren't you?
Yeah.
You have become addicted to it. Good for you. Well, as on behalf of West Grey Council, thank you very much for coming this evening, and congratulations and best of luck going forward with your next endeavor as well too. I know you'll do terrific on it, so great for you. Yeah.
Take that with you.
I'm ready. Okay. We have one other delegation that has canceled. I think it was on some of the agenda. They will be coming on June 5th. That was our insurance to settle up with the fire truck. So hopefully we'll be able to see the new fire truck at that point in time. And that will be in the morning and around 10:15. Okay. Any business arising from the previous meeting? None? Okay, thank you. Then we can go on then to the Director of Finance, Treasurer, Carrie's report. I believe that starts on page
34, Your Worship.
34. Thank you. There we are. That's the vouchers. I know very few people can handle the excitement, so I understand. Ottawa's playing tonight, too. Okay, so we have the vouchers. I have a motion moved by R. Herget, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 9, 2017 of the Municipality of West Grey in the amount of $474,371.33. Are there any questions on the vouchers? Councillor Hutchison. Doug?
Just one question. Page 38, page 2 on yours, Carrie. Just a question. Let's see here. Find what it was. Sorry, I just have to go back to my note here. Find it. The DCHC fund, plus a sponsor. I've probably forgotten what that was. I just wanted, can you clarify that? What was?
Yeah, that's the Durham Community Healthcare Foundation. So as part of the budget, we give a grant to the Healthcare Foundation, and then we sponsor a couple of events as well, and those were all part of the budget. Previous years, they've done a Grape Escape. They've done the Radiothon. So there was 2 events typically for $2,500. So that's the sponsorships going out, and then the other grant. That we also.
So the grant 12.5 is a yearly grant and that we give to the healthcare. Okay, thank you. I figured it's probably what I'd probably asked that question before.
No, that's okay.
No, forgot what it was.
Yep, very good. Thanks, Doug. Any other questions or comments? Carrie, and I think I know the answer to this one. There was 2 expenses in there for, I believe one was for a couple of snare drums and towards the Durham girls. Those are, I'll let you answer it.
Yeah, those have been, we have received the check back from the Durham girls. We actually own the instruments should the Durham girls cease to exist. The ownership of all the instruments does lie with the municipality. So as they replace or enhance the collection of instruments, they're running through the municipality, and then they're reimbursing us from their coffers.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Lawrence?
There's also a voucher there for Durham Girls, Johnny K Sports, 6 jackets, and as we speak, the check is being signed at band practice, so it'll be here tomorrow.
Yep, it's always been. Rebecca? No, that was yours? Okay. Any other questions on the vouchers? Clarification? Seeing none then, the motion's been moved. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. The next one. Carrie is dealing with the tender arena, or the tender, the arena tender, not tendering, the arena. Thank you. This one is on the fire alarms.
The first one is the exterior, interior siding and insulation of the Normandy Arena.
Yep.
Tom has reviewed. We did only receive one tender. He has been in contact with DOMS, and he's confirmed that they would be able to start the beginning of June and would be completed by sometime in August. The budget, the project doing all 3 pieces, there was one optional piece, but including that, the project would come in about $10,000 under budget. So Tom is looking to replace the sign at the arena. I have received from him, DOMs have estimated possibly about $2,500 to replace the arena sign, and he also would like to replace 3 exterior doors at approximate cost of $4,000 as well. So he just sent that in today, so.
Okay. I'm going to introduce the motion, and then we can have questions on it. I have a motion moved by John A. Bell, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves parts 1, 2, and 3 of the tender from Dom Construction for the Normanby Arena Complex interior and exterior siding project in the amount of $120,000 plus HST. Comments, Mr. Bell. John?
Well, when I see this, and anytime you have a little expenditure that comes in under budget, just not exactly sure if we have to go and spend the money right away. It was announced in Southgate Township, Mr. John Woodbury, who's a well-known councillor in that part of the world, thought that those underfunded items with those little reserves or surpluses at the end should go in a special reserve to be used at a later date for projects around there. So there's items, I guess, that come in under budget. If you want to do it that way, I guess you can always inflate, and I know that Tom didn't do this, but I mean, you can inflate your budget to realize there is going to be a surplus. So you can play the game 2 different ways, but just not sure if we necessarily need to go and spend this right away is my point more than anything. Just a point.
Okay. Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
Are you speaking of the surplus of the 10,000? Is that what you're speaking to?
I am, yes.
Well, I need to tell you, if you're down there, have a look at the exterior doors that he wants to, they were not in our budget, and this is an opportunity to replace them. You can go like this with the one set. That's the exterior doors that face the road. They're in pretty bad shape. So it's an opportunity to, and as far as the sign, the one that says Normanby Arena will be coming down, and it's just attached with some kind of strapping. A new one it's in bad shape too. It's been there forever, I guess, but it would be fastened to the siding once the siding's on. Can I just ask Carrie, you said June 1st and they'd be done in August. Do you know, would they be doing the interior first? Like Tom has hockey school starting the end of July.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that exactly, but I think they have to do the alarm work before they do the interior, so that will have to come first, I think, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But, and also on the sign, Tom would also be looking at putting the West Grey logo up. That building doesn't currently have the West Grey logo on it.
Yes, it does.
Oh, does it on there?
Yes, the West Grey logo is by itself. It's on the
main entrance.
mortared side, yeah.
On the main entrance. Brent?
If I can comment, Councillor Lawrence, I created the tender for Tom, and the excuse me, the interior work has to be completed by July 13th because the ice is going in on the 17th. Yeah. So that was all coordinated with Tom. So just to let you know, and the exterior work, we gave that as a later date just because we didn't want the contractor to be rushing at it. We thought if we gave him ample time, it would generate more people to bid, but anyways.
Okay. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the added work hasn't been approved. This is just the parts 1, 2, and 3. So that, will have to come back to us, Brent, or not?
We put it into part 1, 2, and 3, and the part 3 was an optional, only because Tom had a set budget, and we want to be able to, part 3 was optional, so that if the budget, if it exceeded, the cost of parts 1, 2, and 3 together exceeded what Tom's budget was, then part 3 could be eliminated. It came in under his budget. He was glad about that, but it was set up strategically that way so that we weren't having to go back and renegotiate with the contractor at a later date. But to Councillor Deputy Mayor's comments about the doors, I have reviewed them. They aren't in the best of shape. They're the original doors in the structure, and they're steel, and they are corroding, or they're very weak. So not to, I think if the doors could be replaced, it might be an opportune time to do that. It's just my suggestion, but again, I did review all that stuff with Tom when I was on site. Yeah, and I believe those doors are 42 years old, because it was built in 75, I believe.
77.
Sorry.
77, yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so
40.
they're 40 years old, yeah.
Yeah. That's what my understanding is. Councillor Hutchison first, and then I'll get...
Yeah, maybe in terms of the sign, maybe we should hold off on that, and maybe there'd be a local builder or something would want to put their name on that sign and pay us some money so we could make a little additional on the sign, because that some areas do use their facilities and have naming rights and gain some funds from that. So maybe we should look at doing that in the future.
Councillor Lawrence, Carol, and then...
Well, to Councillor Hutchison, I kind of hope not. I hope we don't go down that road. But anyway, to your comment, Mr. Mayor, we're not, in this motion, we're not approving expenditure of that 10,000. That extra 10,000, I believe, has to come back, doesn't it? If we do the doors and we do the sign, or are we going to approve that tonight too?
It depends if you, the original motion was just for the tender.
Right.
But if you choose to add the doors, that's fine.
And the
but if
sign, we
not-
can do it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it just has to be added to the motion. It just wasn't part of the original one, because that just came in from Tom today.
Yeah. And that was my suggestion, was that, you know, I think it is good, but if you can have something in front of us here, you know, with a quote with the contractor for consideration, then at June, that's what I was thinking, yeah. Okay?
So perhaps we could have a quote for next council meeting
Yeah,
for the sign and the doors.
yep,
Okay.
added on, either whether it's a quote or a change order to this contract. Yep, okay. All right. Rebecca, you had a question.
I was just going to comment to Councillor Hutchison that if we were going to go ahead and extend naming rights, maybe we would just go ahead and ask for the $100,000 that is needed to do this project too.
I think we better go back and look at a little bit of that sign policy and whatnot that we have. I believe there's something already in there as well, too. Okay. Any other questions on the motion as it stands right now as for the interior and exterior siding, and the other add-on will come back to us at the next meeting? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. And then the next one is on the fire alarm tenders for emergency signage and
And Tom has
required?
had a chance to finish reviewing the tenders, and he is recommending both for the Newstead and Normanby go with the Blue Water Fire and Security, which is the lowest tender.
That's right. So I have a motion moved by Bev Cutting, seconded by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves the emergency fire alarm tenders from Blue Water Fire and Security for the Normanby Arena Complex in the amount of $12,155 plus HST, and for the Newstead Arena and Community Centre in the amount of $14,760.50 plus HST. Any questions or comments on the motion or discussion? Mr. Thompson?
What system is in there now? Is there not a fire alarm system in those buildings? No?
No.
Really?
We've been ordered by the
No kidding.
fire chief.
No kidding.
The
Okay,
fire
I thought
chief-
there'd be some type of system when the...
There is.
Everything's been
There's a
redone.
verbal system. Fire.
Fire, yeah.
That-
Well, because I know the other system's in there, it's been there for years. But, okay, good thing.
Yeah. It's been something that was identified. you know, I don't know whether I want to say it's an oversight or just, it was never in the buildings, and the fire chief identified it in one of the last inspections, and so this is going to rectify the problem. It shows how old some of the buildings are, yes. Okay. Any further questions? Then I'll call the question on the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Thank you. Anything else, Carrie? That's got it. Okay. Then that'll bring us down to Brent's report. And a number of tenders and equipment. Recommendations here. So I'll introduce these tenders and see what the discussion is. Grass cutting one.
This is number 2.
No, it's, I know where it is.
Those are the last 2, I believe.
There's quotations for equipment.
Yeah, equipment's the last one. The first 2. And then Sutherland's, yeah, I think we
There's number 9. So our first tender that's come through to be approved tonight is 1709. It's moved by R. Hergert, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby awards tender WG 1709 for urban and rural grass cutting, price per cut, Part A, $479.50, Part B, $75, Part C, $225.50, and Part D, $299.50 to S&E Lawn Care, and Part E, $460 to the Ground Guys plus HST. And further, that pending satisfactory performance of the 2017 work, the director be authorized to extend the awarded tenders for 1 additional year. Questions or comments? Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
Thank you. Can you tell me what that's going to include in Newstead?
I'm sorry, Councillor.
The ground
What's it
guys?
going to include?
Yes, what all is included in that Newstead cut?
Everything that Steve Earhart gave me, like, or on the, that's on the list, the ball diamonds, the arena, the parks, the library. I've got the list right here. Sorry. I should have just told you. The pumping stations, let me repeat, the water tower area, the 2 pumping stations, the Lions Park, I don't know why it's echoing, the fire hall, the community center grounds and ball diamonds, and the library. So there's 6 parts to it.
So that's including the soccer field at the park?
At the park, yes.
And is that trimming and
Yes,
cleanup?
trimming and cutting, yes.
And the beds, the flower beds, or is that what
The
Public
flower
Works is?
beds are being dealt with by parks,
By Parks weeding
yes.
and deadheading?
Steve's looking after that,
Okay,
yep.
right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Oh. All right. Clarification question.
Yeah,
On the
so
moved motion?
just under the number of cuts, Brent, so the price is based on 16 cuts, but that ideally could be more or less, right, depending on the season?
That's
Right.
correct. The contract was split up because there was, it got into contractor wanting to cut, and our guy saying, well, you're not cutting dead grass. And then what I did in the tender was stipulate that they would cut once a week starting now till mid-July, and then from mid-July till the end of the season, it would be every 2 weeks unless at our discretion. So if the grass is getting longer, our fellows could say, let's cut it once a week or whatever, but it's at our discretion, not at the contractor's discretion.
Okay.
So we have a bit of control there, so we're not spending for a cut that we don't really need, is what I was trying to eliminate there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. That's the operational of it. Mr. Bell?
Yep, so not going to beat this to death, but go to Newstead then. Was it the same areas that were tendered, that exactly what they were last year, Brent, as far as the tender went out?
What I was told, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't,
Just if somebody asked me, it was the same area.
I couldn't tell and I don't know if Mr. Lance did it before, but the library, that was added. And I don't know, I didn't read it in, in the bill summary. I couldn't tell if that was included in his work or not, but.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Okay.
I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it, Councilor Lance, I'm sorry.
Okay. The next tender then was on single surface treatment. I have a motion moved by Carol Lawrence, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that the Council and Municipality of West Grey hereby awards tender WG 1713 for the application of single surface treatment to MSO Construction Limited for $331,797 plus HST. Any questions or comments on this motion? Doug?
Sorry, maybe it's just a point of clarification. 2016 cost for emulsion was $1.06 per kilogram, but in this year, or it says 2016 again, but 2017 probably, is it? I was a little confused, but I think it's meant to be 2017. It's going to be $1.80 or 87 cents. That's what you're...
Apologies, yes.
Okay, I thought, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Further questions, Deputy Mayor Bell?
Brent, how many kilometers do you anticipate that we're going to do single surface? Just the ballpark figure.
Yeah, 87 this year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Tender? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. The next one is for screening and crushing aggregate. I have a motion moved by John A. Bell and seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby awards tender WG 1714 for screening and crushing aggregates to Harold Sutherland Construction Limited for a total cost of $49,900. And further that Council approves expanding the tender quantities up to approximately 1/3 more to take advantage of the economies of pricing. Any questions or comments on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. The next one is for bridge repairs. We have a motion moved by Doug Hutchison, seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby awards tender WG 1715 for bridge repairs, Part A and Part B, to Allen Hastings Limited for a total tender of $294,837 plus HST. Any questions on this tender? Certainly, Rebecca.
Can you
Councillor
tell me
Rebecca.
what bridges these are for? And I know that might be part of our bridge tour coming up, but please.
Actually, yes, I was including these two bridges on our tour. The first one, bridge number A, is, not bridge number A, Part A, apologize, is concession 18, which is west of the Saugeen Valley Conservation Road on the bends on the Grey Bruce line. It's the short section of road that goes from the bends to, then it leads to Carlsruhe Road. It's a bridge just before the boundary there. That's our structure. The second...
Part of it's on the boundary. We're getting South Bruce to pay for half of it, aren't we?
Near the boundary on our side. The other bridge, much larger bridge, is a mile and a quarter south of that concession, so it's on concession 16 to the east of the Grey Bruce line, or Bruce Road 10, or Grey Road 10 rather, sorry. The map that I sent you this evening, you'll be able to find those on your map.
Okay, number 50, and what was the other number?
54.
54, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Okay. Councillor Cuddick, Bev?
I was going to say, at one point, we had a map that sat with us that had the numbers with all the bridges on it.
I'll email it to you, he just sent it.
No, I know, but maybe you could print them, a couple for us, and just, are they, I know they get very...
Everything on, I can do that, it's just me. I can do that, Councillor Cutting, it's just that the map I'm gonna have to split into 3 pages by the old township fabric.
And
just
that
because,
doesn't hurt, it just gives us a pinpoint as to, yeah, because we don't
no
always
problem,
have
I
that.
could do that, yep.
We used to have them, I don't know where they went.
Anything else? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. And the last one is for quotations for equipment rentals, I guess, as needed. Brent, you want, before I introduce?
I was just going to say, I know council were used to having a summary before Joyce had done it in the past, but it takes a lot of work. And I hope council will be okay that we just copied or to speed up, expedite getting this prepared, for council, that Joyce just scanned the pricing of each individual contractor's list, so you have that information directly in front of you instead of summarized report.
Okay, yep. So I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by John A. Bell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby authorizes the Director of Infrastructure and Public Works and/or Roads and Utility Supervisors to select quotations for equipment required subject to price, availability, and workmanship. Any questions on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Anything else, Brent?
Yes, Your Worship, just to add to Councillor Hutchinson's remarks there at the beginning about the HHW Day, facts and figures, 2016 we had 205 vehicles that were unloaded or came to the site, with 123 drums that were collected. This year, 2017, we had 232 cars, 142 drums, and 2 totes of oil. Now, if it's the totes I'm thinking of, I didn't get clarification from Steve, but they're 1,000-liter totes, the big plastic ones. So I'm assuming, I don't think both of them were filled, but I'm thinking, so there's obviously the idea of moving the HHW Day ahead has helped out in some respects to that it makes it more convenient when people go to clean out their garages in the spring, and has a better use for the staff, or sorry, for the patrons of West Grey.
Okay.
And it's not as hot.
Yeah, out there in the pavement, the workers really appreciated it, I think. It was nice. Councillor Hutchison, Doug?
And I still think we're still investigating whether we're going to get into this business ourselves, right? Because my thought when I drove to the arena and the cars were lined up both ways on Sadler Street at 8 o'clock, no, sorry,
9 o'clock.
10 o'clock when it started, 10 o'clock. And I thought people sitting there and 2 or 3 cars ahead had, the back seat was just completely full of paint. And by the time you take that paint and they dump it, and it takes a while for some people to go through. So I'm thinking if people get frustrated because they have to sit there for an hour, it would be a lot easier to be able to just go into our landfill, dump it off, and away you go. So I still think it's worth investigating and see whether it would be worthwhile doing. But it's great that people are doing it. I just don't want people to get frustrated because of the system.
I agree, Councillor Hutchison. I do have the budget to review that. I just haven't had the opportunity to get down to Southgate to personally talk to the people that oversee and take a look at their vehicle, or not the vehicle, but the apparatus that they use and how they manage it, and I guess you might as well call it the red tape that goes along with it. I'd like to understand because it's just not maybe as simple as what we may think it is, because you still have the stewardship, you still have to write down everything that comes into those places. So I don't think it's a site that you just set up and you leave unattended. It has to have somebody that's certified also, and that's another big thing, is that can accept somebody trained from West Grey staff that's trained to accept hazardous materials, because you just don't know what comes into the landfill.
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
And the other thing I guess maybe it's worth looking into, or wait with some time, is because there is changes coming in terms of the producers, the ministry, making the producers more responsible for recycling of their waste, that there may be something that comes out of that also, right, with the hazardous waste. So that's, hopefully that's going to happen sooner rather than later, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
Yeah. Rebecca, Councillor Herget.
Brent, can you remind us how much this day costs, the household hazardous waste day costs the taxpayers, please?
Absolutely. It's not a total, it's subsidized partially. I can go back and get 2016 costs. I think I would be able to find that. It takes a while before we get the rebates back from,
yeah, the rebates.
I'm sorry, the name eludes me, but anyways, I could easily give you a summary of the 2016 costs, so you know exactly what, and it'd be approximate, and it's going to be very similar, I would expect, this year too. Or go back and look at 2015-16 costs and have at least we'll give you an idea of if it's climbing or if it's stabilized.
Okay. Any other questions? I did have one comment from a resident that lives close by. Something along the line from what Councillor Hutchison was saying. The traffic was backed up, right from the arena, right around and down to Bruce Street on Sadler. And there is a few residents there that it was bumper to bumper. They couldn't get out of their driveway, so we may have to look at a different way of routing traffic around or something like that for the next time we do it.
I think we could queue the cars better in the parking lot and set up a zigzag or whatever we had to do, even if it's one.
Well, even if we come in the east drive and come around the other way around the arena, instead of on the east side of the arena, and then those three houses that are there right across from the arena wouldn't be impacted as much by the traffic. It was well attended. And I got to say, if you go there at 1:30, there are not many cars ahead of you. Nope, you can drive right in. Okay. All right. Thanks, Brent. And the other one there, of course, we spoke about the clean sweep. Done a good job on that. One other question, Brent. I know it seems strange with the amount of rain that we had a week ago, but dust control will be starting this week?
Yes, Your Worship, we're working, Tim's been working, communicating with the contractor and trying to set up. I did meet with the contractor myself last week, and actually, because of the rain last week, it is throwing a huge wrinkle into Ontario as a whole, like everything. Everything's backed up a week. So the contractors asked us to be, if we could be flexible. I already talked to Tim. Flexible meaning, could we take unload later at night? Could we work a Saturday? So I ran that by Tim, and I said, you know, we might have to do something like that in order to get our work done. Otherwise, it might stretch out a lot longer, and I really don't want the phones ringing off the hook. So it's going to cost us a little bit more, but I think it's important that we try and get the product down as soon as possible.
Right. Okay. So, any other questions for Brent? Thank you very much, sir. Clerk's report. Mark, the first one is the Joint Building Services Department and radon gas. Do you want one of the board members to talk about that?
Sure.
Yeah. Was that a conference, I can't remember whether it was AMO last year, or I think it was when we first really got into this, and I've heard about it even earlier before that, radon gas mitigation and how it's going to be put into the building code. And we're not in one of the high areas, but it is here, prevalent in Graham Bruce. It's one of the things especially prevalent in the city of Guelph, for whatever reason it is. But it can be in one house, and the house right next door, never have an effect with it. But putting it in and having, and I think we've got it motion here, the bylaw, the builders, if it is right in that the mitigation, the infrastructure is put in when the house is being built. Basically, it's a couple of pipes in the floor that it can be aired off, I guess is the best way to put it. It's a very minimal cost to put it in at that point in time. If it's identified afterwards, I can see from the rolling of the eyes from some contractors, but if it's found afterwards, you've got to take your whole basement floor out, put the piping in and whatnot, and have the fans attached and everything and put into place. So to put it in, rough it in, somewhere, the estimate cost is somewhere between $500 and $1,000 to do it, but it's not mandated in the code right now, but we can put it in as a requirement in any new builds that go forward. The building department, joint building department has talked, and most of the contractors certainly don't have a problem with it, as what the added cost is and what it's going to add in value going forward. It's being recognized as more and more of a problem as we go forward, so this is a little bit of proactive approach to the issue as we learn more about it, really. Any other questions or comments on that? Carol, Councillor Lawrence.
What is the cost for a contractor putting this in, the new home?
I just said about $500 to $1,000.
500. And would we be requiring older stock to have some kind of mitigation, or only if there's a problem?
Only at a problem stage there. As I said, to really get at it, it's something that comes up through the ground. It evaporates, I guess that's the best way to say it, evaporates off very quickly and become mitigated, but it's getting it out. Comes in through cracks in the basement floor, and then, the density of it causes you problems. But if you have the piping in and you can pipe it off, if it becomes identified, you've got the piping in there, put a fan onto it, and away you can blow it off.
Is there any kind of alarm for that, similar to carbon monoxide?
I don't think that there's an alarm for it, but there is a, they're almost like a puck that it tests. So you can test your home, and a couple of the individuals on the Joint Building Committee have put them in. They're about, Larry, do you remember, or John, the cost? $30? 30 to somewhere between $30 and $50 for the, it's a, like I said, it's almost like a puck or ball that's set down. 15 days or 30 days it's got to sit?
It's going to sit for a predetermined period of time. And
Yeah.
send the whole.
You want to use your mic? Use the mic? The mic. The mic.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hit the button on that.
Yes, sir. There's a predetermined period of time that the device is set up in your basement. And at the end of that period of time, you box it up in the container that came in and send it off to get tested at various labs. And then they ascertain whether or not you have a radon issue or whether you don't.
Yeah. Okay. Bev?
So if you don't have a radon issue today, can you get one in a year or two? Like, does this something that's, oh, so it has to be an ongoing monitor?
It's going to be, you know, it would be voluntary for pre-built houses and whatnot. Is it something, if you don't have it, you know, in the first 5 years, the likelihood, you know, it drops significantly that it's going to be, you're end up with it type of thing. But it's not saying that you can test it today and, you know, 5 years down the road, you may have it. So the thought, the last one that at the conference I was at, you know, if you're in one of those very high-risk areas, as I said, Guelph, Sudbury, there's a couple of other ones out there, they're saying that the individual should test every 3 to 5 years, have a test done on your home. Outside of that, you know, you might want to test once. If you don't have it after you've been in the house for 3 or 4 years, very small likelihood that it would happen.
So this is basically for new builds because they're disturbing the ground? Is that what that is? Or it can...
We're asking it in new builds.
Yeah, for
because
it to be part of the legislation, but...
it's just easy to do, to put in a bit of the piping in the floor when you're doing the new build. Rough it in, and, you know, 2 years afterwards, check your home. Yeah, I've got radon. Then you would need an extra fan and whatnot to suck it up and blow it off type of thing. The mitigation is very easy, but as I said, if you find out you haven't put the piping in, now you've got to break up your whole floor and whatnot to get the piping in. It's not that hard to mitigate. It's harmless once it goes off into the air, but if it's in a condensed area, it can, cause cancer. Correct. Going to be one of the effects with the density. And all that we're asking is on the new builds, just to have this put in, and it would be one of the things to be inspected and put in place. Okay? So we have a motion on that. Chatsworth, out of the 4, Chatsworth and Grey Highlands have already passed this, Mark? I know Grey Highlands has, and I believe Chatsworth has as well, too. Rob?
Yeah, I did do some research on it, did talk to several people, and you do have to send it to a lab, and the cost can be quite substantial. I'm just wondering, since we do have a contractor here, maybe we could get some more information on it before we do decide on anything, because this area isn't really prone to the radon gas, and maybe just something we're going to add to the builders that I just wonder if we shouldn't gather some more information before we make a decision.
Anybody got a problem of asking a expert in the field of building? Mr. Trimble. Don, opinion.
Guelph has to have it, but it'll be an additional cost to your building department because to do it properly, we have to put plastic down, seal it, put these pipes up, and it's supposed to be inspected before we pour. So it's going to require an additional inspection, which I think I would let the building code decide If it comes in the building code that's compulsory, then it's not going to be a cost to you guys on your inspections. By the sounds of it, yeah, Casper's put it through, and I think not enough people have done enough research on it. It's like the smoke detector with the light now. Now they're saying maybe that was a mistake, costing $700 per house for such a small percentage. But they're all over there, they're talking about it. It's in Guelph, I guess it's a really huge problem, but up here we're really minimized. Like, so they were saying that trying to get us to say we do it. It will be about $1,000 bucks. But the biggest thing is to get an inspector out there at the time at 7 o'clock in the morning when you're pouring concrete, because it's got to be something that's got to be inspected. So in the city of Guelph, they actually, you go through a private firm and inspect it. It's not the building department. So it's hard to get inspections done now at 9 o'clock. Okay? So we pour concrete at 7. So if it comes through the building code, it'll be forced, but at this point it's not. So I don't know. I just, they're trying to push it, say up to Chatsworth and so it will be an additional cost. Put on just, be put on me, but we put on you guys too, because it'll be one more employee or one more person hired for your building department, which you're probably gonna have to add to it soon anyway. So at the end of the day, it's, and what about the other 300,000 houses that are built already? And I'm always thinking, if it's a big enough issue, the government's going to enforce it, not, they're doing enough tests. And Guelph is a bad, I live in Guelph, it's a bad, and you say subdivision, there's one other one, there's 3 of them in Ontario that are.
I think Sudbury's the other one, and there's another one in the north.
Kingston or Cornwall or somewhere, there's some other one that, we just talked about this over in Maumee at the H thing we just had, and so it probably will come in the building code the next 5 years, and then it won't be in the order, because I think once you guys do it as a bylaw, and something happens, then you're always liable. Yeah. Maybe not.
We're going to be liable if it's in the building code and we don't inspect it anyways.
If it's in the building code, then we'll all have to do it, and you'll have to do it, that'll be part of it. But that's part of the building code, and you're not responsible for the stuff in the building code, your department is. But if you just say, put this as a bylaw, who's going to inspect it?
Well, it would be the building department.
Okay.
Yeah, the same as if it was in the building code. Yeah.
If the CBO wants to comment.
Larry?
Your Worship, in the report from former CBO Acres, the 3 areas designated are the town of Elliott Lake in Algoma, township of Faraday in Hastings, and the township of Hyman in Sudbury.
Yeah. Carol?
Well, having listened to all this, I don't see the reason we would go ahead with this. You say proactive, but I mean, we don't at this point have a problem. I would say when it hits the building code, then we have to have that. We have to abide by the building code, but right now it's not in there. Why would we add another $700,000 to $1,000 to the cost of building? It just doesn't, it doesn't help the developers, it doesn't help the buyers, and as I said, as Don said, maybe within 5 years it'll be in the building code, and if that's the case when it is, then we need to have a bylaw around it. But, or I guess we don't, because it's in the building code. It just be.
Yep. Doug, Councillor Hutchison?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is it says it's caused by the decay of uranium. I don't think we have high uranium deposits in our area. Could be wrong, but I think it's more into northern Ontario. But the other thing that I'm sort of curious in here, health facts, approximately 10 to 15% of all lung cancers are caused by radon. 13% of lung cancers, or almost 850 deaths each year in Ontario alone, is caused by radon. I'd like to know how many of those are in Grey County or Grey Bruce County. Like, they don't tell you that. They just say in Ontario. So, I mean, is this Northern Ontario? Is it the 3 areas that you mentioned that have high levels? Where are these stats coming from? So, maybe they need to do more studies in the homes in our area and to determine the levels. And then you can maybe say that there's a percentage that have lung cancers. But before that, I think, maybe we're jumping the gun on this one. So,
no? Would we want the CBO to come and Have a,
Feels it's merited.
yeah. At a future meeting, because it sounds like there's a few questions that aren't answered and not comfortable introducing this motion, so we can receive this for information. And I mean, it's, you know, if it's something that a builder or a builder, somebody building their home, I imagine the contractor would put it in at their, you know, their request. You're correct, Doug. It doesn't break it down to, it's Ontario-wide, not area. But the 3 areas that were identified, but it still doesn't, Guelph, and just as Mr. Trimble has said, Guelph is noted as being very troublesome with it as well, too. And I don't know whether that's from electroplating down there with uranium or what it caused, but it's in Guelph as well, too. Carol?
I would like some stats to back up this statement that's in here, which says within our 4 municipalities, the radon potential map for Ontario indicates that some of our areas within Zone 3 guarded, while other parts of our municipalities are in Zone 1 high. I'd like to know where that is within our 4 municipalities, and, you know, something to back that up.
Yep. Well, it's part of the information, and I would suggest that a meeting coming, a future meeting, whether it be committee of the whole, we see if we can get to a CBO or representative from that, or the Lung Association to come and give us some information from their perspective as well too, Doug. Okay? All right. So we can receive that at this time for information and follow up with it. Larry?
Your Worship, the maps that went along with that were colored maps, and they were included with the report. But I noticed when they were provided in this report, they were just simply black and white, so it's very difficult to differentiate the 2 areas.
Yeah.
Imagine if we wanted, if you wanted one, Councillor, we could get.
It's not fine enough. Like this, there are 4 municipalities, it's not fine enough.
You can't even hardly see, like it's so blurred too, so.
Like to pick out those 4 municipalities on that, it's pretty difficult.
And you can't read the guide, it's just too fine a print for, at least I can't.
So
and while the building code was open, they just updated it, as you're aware. There was discussions about making this mandatory, which is why we worked on trying to put something together, or the committee worked on putting something together.
We can, and one of the other problems or causes of it is the homes that we're building today are, you know, so much more airtight. It causes the buildup of the gas as well too. So let's see if we can get somebody here to speak on this issue, and we'll receive this report for information at this time. Bev?
Yeah, last comment, it also says that the testing facilities, yes, you're right, 91 days and completed in the winter, but it has to be done by a Canadian National Radon Proficiency Program, generally closed, and I mean, is there even anybody in this area that would be able to do that? Like,
To be able to test it? No.
yeah, so.
You have to send it away, and I'm not sure where it's sent, but you can buy the kits at Home Hardware, TSC, you know, Rona, you know.
Well, it says here it
Home
should be done
Depot.
by a professional, certified professional, the test.
The test, yes. The kit itself,
Okay.
Yeah.
So you send it to this
yeah, you set
national radon,
done.
it's not somebody, okay.
Yeah.
It's not like a home
No,
inspection
no,
or a.
no. The kits themselves are, as I said, just out of a box, set it down, and
It's not like
yeah.
a pregnancy test.
I guess a little bit like a pregnancy test, or yeah. Okay. It came from that side of the table. I understand. Okay. Let's leave this for information and move on before we get further down. Okay. Mark, Township of Essa.
Yeah, just seeking council direction. I guess it would just be, the sign would be provided when the G1, G2 driver gets their license, so just looking for council direction.
Support?
Please.
Right.
People's cars, or dog in the back seat. Carrying an old person, like.
Yeah. Person's pregnant. Okay, are we fine with that? Councillor Cutting is saying receive for information. I'm getting a nod of the heads. Mark, receive for information. Municipality of Meaford wants to delay the decision on surgeries in the Grey Bruce Health Services. What's the thought of council on this one? Councillor Thompson. Rob?
Just a question, is this just the 4 hospitals involved in this Grey Bruce Health Services, or is he talking all the Grey and Bruce, or all the?
It's just the 4 that are involved. I think it's more than 4, so I think it's 5, isn't it? Because there's Southampton.
Wyerton. There's none in line, yeah. Yeah.
Southampton, Wyerton.
4.
Sound, Meaford. Yeah. 4 or 5 centers. Yep.
And move it all to 1.
Move all the surgeries into Owen Sound is what they are suggesting for the effectiveness and the efficiency and cost to be able to get there, because they're operating on about a $3 million, $2 million deficit at this point in time. And one of the factors that they found, I mean, when you have surgeries, it's costing you X number of dollars to keep, you know, whether you're doing 2 surgeries or 200 surgeries, the surgical unit costs the same. So that's what they're saying.
Yeah, so wouldn't this just stay within their own decision instead of going outside and asking our support and everyone else's support? When normally from this area, if you're your family doctor in this area sends you for surgery, they'll send you either to Hanover or to Owen Sound. And normally it's Owen Sound, so I don't see the benefit of us supporting. Let them make their own decision whether they want to not provide the service in Meaford and Saugeen Shores and so on. You know.
So, Councillor Lawrence?
Well, I don't quite agree with Councillor Thompson on this. To me, that's the beginning of the loss of their hospitals. It's certainly a loss of retaining their doctors or attracting new doctors. And I don't think we want that to happen to any town, and it could just start the ball rolling. It could be looked at then in this area. And it's all about money, but maybe it needs to be better managed. And the only thing about this motion that I don't like is it's only supporting it staying at Meaford. I would like to see it says it stay at all 4, but you know, what's left? They pull out the day surgery. That does bring their doctors, it holds their doctors, their use of their hospital. They're going to be referred out, and I think it's important for all of them, you know, including ourselves.
Well, I think that's what I'm saying. Is if they want to make a decision, don't ask us to make the decision for them.
They're not. They're asking us support there.
Yeah, but if we support their decision just to move everything into Owen Sound, I don't agree with that. I think if they want to keep all the hospitals
Well, that's what
open,
it says, Rob.
Yeah.
They don't want to.
We're not supporting it going to Owen Sound. We're supporting
they
it
want to
staying
keep their own.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there is 5 hospitals. Southampton, Wyerton, Owen Sound, Meaford, and Markdale.
Well, there is, but Owen Sound's not on Wednesday day surgery.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Lions Head has that. Anyways, we have a motion there. If we want to move it,
Because it's supporting a motion, can we somehow add an addendum to it, at least that it's the continuation of elective surgery in all of the Grey Bruce Health Services Board? Not just Meaford?
I think we could, and further that.
Okay.
Be our motion and added to that. There, Mark. Okay. So I have a motion moved by Carol Lawrence, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the resolution of the Municipality of Meaford Council requesting the Grey Bruce Health Services to delay any decision respecting the consolidation of all elective day surgeries in Owen Sound to allow further discussion with key community partners. And Councillor Lawrence, you want, this is the wording.
And then at the end of the second whereas.
Okay, and further that a supporting letter be forwarded to the Minister of Health and Long-Term Care, CEO of the Southwest Lynn, Bruce and Grey County Wardens, local MP and MPP, and the Municipality of Meaford, and requesting the continuation of all present-day elective surgeries at the Grey Bruce Health Services facilities.
Read that again and maybe we can...
Requesting the continuation of all present-day elective day surgeries at all Grey Bruce Health Service facilities.
Maybe and further that all day surgeries, whatever, be preserved in the Grey Bruce Health Services rather than requesting.
That's your, yeah. Let Mark
wordsmith it.
Wordsmith that part of it. Fine with that?
Okay, put another whereas sometime.
I would have great fears, Mr. Mayor, for the proposed new hospital in Markdale if they're going to pull the day surgery out of there.
Yeah. And I'm not sure with the facility, the way they had described it, how much, whether it was going to be capable of day surgery or not anyways.
60,000 square feet?
Yeah, I know, and have 4 beds. That's big. So this is what Mark has, and further that all present-day elective day surgeries be preserved at each Grey Bruce Health Services facilities. Okay? All right. So Mark will add that in. Is that good enough understanding on the motion the way it's presented? Moved and seconded by Lawrence and Cutting. Any further questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Mark, you have private members bill from Dutton Dunwich.
Council may recall there's been some similar resolutions brought before council, so I am seeking council direction.
Any thoughts? Bev?
I just have my hand out to sign it there.
Okay. Young gentleman's trying to make it. Councillor Hutchison?
Yeah, does this not seem similar to ones we've already passed, like in the past, in terms of, we know that there's unwilling hosts out there and we've supported resolutions? I'm just like, this is a private member's bill, but has that not already come forward at one point or something, somewhere along the line? So
one day maybe they'll listen, but
Yeah.
until they do, maybe we should just continue sending the letters saying that since you said you would not put wind turbine projects in unwilling host communities, maybe we should just remind them again that that's what they said, because they keep doing it.
Yeah, it just seems like we keep doing it and doing it, so.
Mark?
It is a kind of a balancing act. We do get from a number of municipalities similar resolutions or resolutions from municipalities supporting another municipality's resolution. It gets somewhat redundant. I am careful about that. This kind of request hasn't come before the present council is constituted, so that was maybe one reason why I brought this forward as well.
Okay. And I don't think we've ever had one from a private member perspective. It's been councils, exactly, Beth. Carol?
Well, I just think, as Bev said, they need to be reminded. I mean, Premier Wynne came out and said that it was their mistake, it was her mistake, with the hydro rates and all, and the very next day they approved some more contracts. So they haven't heard, they haven't listened, so we just have to keep bombarding them, I guess.
Okay. I'm going to introduce, I have a motion moved by Bev Cutting and seconded by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the resolution of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich requesting support for private member's bill by Sam Osterhoff, MPP for Niagara Glanbrook, proposing the government to halt all wind power approvals in unwilling host communities. And further that, a supporting letter be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, Minister of Energy, local MPPs, MPP Osterhoff, and the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich. Any further comments on the motion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. There we go. There we are. What's the next one, Mark?
So the next one is a letter from the County of Grey. There was a recent increase in the what's called, commonly called the royalty fee for aggregate. And there was a recent increase, I believe, I may be corrected by the director, but it went from 3 cents to 6 cents for the upper tier levels of government and from 6 to 12 for the local municipalities. The county had previously recommended going to an overall increase of 54 cents and their portion being 20 cents a tone. So they were reinforcing that and sent certainly a letter to all local municipalities with that information.
And just for clarification there, this is still on the listed, but the bill hasn't, or the act hasn't been approved yet with that, but it's still what we're pushing to see if it can be put to that 54 cents, which would more reasonably cover the costs that we feel are created by the extraction operators. Have a motion moved by John A. Bell and seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports the resolution of the County of Grey regarding proposed changes to the Aggregate Resource Act as outlined in notice, proposed changes to fees and royalties re pits and quarries dated March 17, 2017. And further that, a supporting letter be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, local MPPs, I'm going to take that one out of there. I don't think it needs to go to Mr. Osterhoff. I think that was from the other one, Mark. Sorry. And the County of Grey. Mover and seconder find that doesn't go to Niagara Glanbrook? Yep. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments on this? Carol?
Just the 20 cents to the upper tier, is that a fair portion going to them, or?
That's what most of the upper tiers, through a lot of dialogue, have come up with. That would make it about fair and equitable, and the same amount coming to the lower tiers. Is where we, out of that 54 cents, that's where Grey County wants to push it to, and as you see in the report, the recommendation that is being pushed towards the legislature is what, 19 cents or 20 cents total
Total.
Yeah.
20 cents total.
Oh.
20 cents total.
Huge gap. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yes, that's about it. And a lot of
No, here it is here.
of our aggregate, you know, is pushed towards Grey County, or county roads, because of their ability for higher volume. So in Grey County especially, where we have 60% of the untapped aggregate, we've got to get on top of it, or we'll have no roads soon. Okay, any other comments? Call the question, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Good God. That's ridiculous.
Mark, from Lanark County.
So the next item is certainly an issue that's certainly North American, even worldwide. That's with the opioid issue, and certainly a lot of deaths even in this area, and high-profile deaths in the celebrity world, even from the opioid fentanyl. So seeking direction from council on the proposed resolution.
When you read the literature on this, it is being overprescribed.
Councillor Hutchison, Doug?
Yeah, I think, can I speak before we haven't finished signing yet?
Yeah.
Anyways, I think it's something that all areas are dealing with, the whole drug issue, and this is basically giving the first responders, police and fire, a chance to respond. Like they talk about naloxone, I think it is, that they use to, when you need to get that to them right away to prevent them going into shock and into a death situation. So I think it's important. There's a lot of drugs out there, and anything we can do to help our first responders to deal with it, I think, is important. So I'd support this resolution for sure.
Okay. Councillor Lawrence, Carol?
I would support it as well. I was just reading an article where doctors are over-prescribing the Oxycontin and all of those in situations where it shouldn't be, where there is some pain but not extensive pain, and that's what it was intended for in the first place. So people are, like, I know of someone that had a minor operation and they were prescribed 50 Oxycontin pills. I mean, that's ridiculous. You know, by the time you got finished, you'd be addicted.
Mm-hmm. It's apple pie. Okay. Do you want to ask? Go ahead, Robert.
Does this mean that we're actually going to put a policy into place so that our first responders have this? Are we supplying this medicine to, I know that the idea of the resolution is that we're going to support somebody else's idea for that legislation to come forward, but will we ourselves be, you know, supporting it fully, saying we really need to have this medicine for all of our first responders? Does this not come to a Grey County social services type setting?
Our ambulance or, yeah, paramedics already do.
Okay.
It's the question as to, you know, a lot of the times it's the ambulance isn't the first responder.
Right.
It's police and fire. So can they
Administer it? Can they?
have it
Will
and
they?
administer it? Not now. And
So is that another change under the Police Services Act that we're looking for?
no.
No.
Go ahead, Rob.
When I was up at Elmwood, and then the head of paramedics for Bruce County was there, There's three ways that when the paramedics respond, there's 3 ways to treat this. With a swab in the nose, intravenous, or an injection. Well, police and fire can't give interjection or the intravenous. So it's got to be a paramedic. Paramedics there. Police are there because these people that receive treatment become extremely violent. So police are there. Unfortunately, the situation may warrant fire to be on scene for other reasons, but yeah, because it's a medical assist is normally what they get called for. So, but they can't give a needle or do intravenous. So it's strictly paramedics. So if police and fire show up, all they can do is restrain till the paramedics until they're trained to be doctors.
Go ahead.
This resolution, though, it says that ensure first responders, including police and fire, have access to provincially funded. So we can't really fully support it. We can sign on to it, but the reality, how are we actually going to do this?
Well, I think there certainly have to be legislative change, and then the other factor is going to be a lot of training for those services. Is it, as Rob has said, there is the nasal inhalants or swabs that could be administered until fire, but I think it's more towards full-time fire departments where they're looking at not as much volunteer, although volunteer may end up being in it as well too. But it's
So this is
a huge
support
problem.
in principle. This is not a support where we're contributing money and education and getting our people up to it.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I think we're just supporting Landmark. Yeah, Landmark.
Yeah.
In their quest to get the provincial and federal governments. It's a federal offense. Anything to do with narcotics is a federal offense. So it's basically RCMP that deal with narcotics end of it, and yeah, the municipal forces can enforce that. But I think this is just supporting them in whatever endeavor they want to do. I don't think we can tell them any which way differently. I mean, we can just show some support towards their request to the provincial government, but I think they need to be tackling the federal government because it's not just province of Ontario, it's right across Canada.
Okay. I introduced this, didn't I? We got a fair bit of, I still haven't introduced it? Yeah. So I have a motion moved by Doug Hutchison and seconded by Carol Lawrence. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Garry hereby supports the resolution of Lanark County Council requesting the provincial government to implement steps to enhance local response to the opioid problem in our communities. And further that, a supporting letter be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, Minister of Health and Long-Term Care, local MPPs, and the County of Lanark. Okay? Any further questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. That was Day County and Lanark. And the next one is on the taxes for Canada Flags and 150. What does Mark?
Yeah, certainly it would help promote Canada 150 activities. On the other hand, we're approaching near half of the year gone. What will be the cost to businesses, et cetera, to implement the changes in the tax, how it's apportioned and paid for? I'm just not sure, so I am seeking council direction.
Carol?
I would move this be received and filed.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
No,
you're going to second that? Yeah. So we'll receive that. All in favor of that? Anybody opposed? That's carried. Okay. That's it. Anything else, Mark?
Not at this moment.
Very good. And that brings us down, I think, to bylaws, doesn't it? I think so. Okay. If there's nothing else for Mark. Bev? Bev's looking for a 2-minute break here.
Really?
Okay, we'll take just a couple of minutes and we'll call the meeting back to order. Thank you. So we're down to bylaws. First, second, and third readings, and the first bylaw is 48, is the agreement for purchase and sale of property. I have a motion moved by John A. Bell and seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 48, 2017, being a bylaw to enter into an agreement of purchase and sale respecting the sale of property owned by the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey to Arthur Gilbert Rivest and Travis Arthur Rivest, described as part road allowance between lot 49 and 50, concession 2, WGR, being part 1 and 3 on 16R 10808 and subject to an easement over part 2 on 16R-10808 to Union Gas, Geographic Township of Bentinck, Municipality of West Grey, County of Grey, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions or comments on this bylaw? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. The next one is the bylaw on the weed inspector. Route 49, there we are. Just repeal the bylaw until we got the. Okay, so we've got the new one, and this is more of a cleanup. So I have a motion moved by R. Hergert, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 49, 2017, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw number 60, 2016, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Is there any questions? Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
Refresh my memory, will you? I don't recall us naming him as a weed inspector. When was this? Right after Frank left? Last year?
Yeah, bylaw 60 of 2016 was passed on June 20th, 2016. After Frank Behrens had terminated.
And what was the contract for? Just the rest of the year? Or?
No, it was ongoing with a termination period of 30 days noticed by either party, but as you know, Mr. Thake was at the time, as you may recall, Mr. Thake was employed at the time with the Township of Chatsworth, had the same, he worked Public Works, he also was the weed inspector for the Township of Chatsworth, and he willingly provided the service to West Grey in the interim. However, he moved on to other areas of endeavor, and therefore he couldn't continue in his capacity.
And now we have Jennifer.
Correct.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. And better go to number 50. Number 50 is a bylaw for tax rates. I have a motion moved by Doug Hutchison, seconded by Rob Thompson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 50, 2017, being a bylaw to provide for the adoption of estimates of all sums required during the year to strike the tax rates and to provide for penalty and interest in default of payment thereof for the year 2017. Be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions on this motion? Doug?
It's not really a question, but it's a comment, and it has to do with more or less the rates. And I think there's some movement out there, and hopefully it happens sooner or later, but this business where commercial occupied gets commercial vacant buildings get a discount versus commercials that's occupied. And I don't think that's fair to the businesses on the street that are running a business and paying their full share, and then the guy next door who has an empty business is getting a cut on his taxes because he has nothing going on there. There's some movement that came out of Windsor, and I think the provincial government is now talking about it to try and to change that, and actually doing the opposite in terms of penalizing after a certain period of time. If nothing's happening in your building, then you start to pay more taxes rather than less. So I hope we see that happen, because I think there needs to be incentive for people to do something when they have a business on the main street. So that's coming out.
Okay. Heard a bit about that as well too. Something that has to do with some corporations that it's more financially tax-wise, they can leave it vacant and pay the less tax, and on the overall corporation be beneficial to them. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. And then bylaw number 51 is a confirming bylaw. I have a motion moved by R. Hergut, seconded by Bev Cutting. Be it resolved that bylaw number 51, 2017, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the May 15th, 2017 council meeting, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the CEO, deputy clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and be engrossed in the bylaw book. Any questions on this motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. There we are, Mark. Okay. Now, Mark, that brings us down to new business. We have a little bit of new business here. Yep. You're up.
So council may recall during the May 8th Committee of the Whole Planning meeting, the committee reviewed a draft subdivision agreement for DG Land Developments, which is for the proposed 13-lot plan of subdivision on Chester Street in Durham. At that time, there were a few...
Excuse me, I need to declare a conflict.
Sorry, yeah, okay.
Councillor Lawrence.
Due to the fact that my husband is a real estate agent and sold the property to, that we're speaking of.
To the development. Very good. Thank you, Carol. So noted.
Okay.
Okay, Mark.
So where was I? Okay, so council reviewed a draft subdivision agreement. There were a few items that the committee wanted addressed for this meeting. So the one item was on the draft subdivision agreement. When the solicitor reviewed the agreement and did a search on title, there was a notation of a existing mortgage. So after some deliberation, it's my understanding that the mortgage will be discharged, and therefore there won't be a mortgagee listed in the agreement. So that issue has been taken care of. Before I get to the main issue, I'll mention one other issue that perhaps wasn't discussed as much, and it relates to the 5% cash in lieu for parkland dedication. That's available through the Planning Act. We do have a rate of $500 for parkland, a parkland fee per new residential lot created. So I would suggest that would be appropriate. So 13 lots, it would be $500 per lot, so $6,500. If the council may want to discuss that. The last item relates to the security. The proponent or the owner wishes council to entertain providing securities in the amounts of, by performance bond or irrevocable letter of credit, in the amounts of 50% for the estimated cost of the works to be completed for the subdivision. So that is something that the solicitor has reviewed. He made it a note that council should discuss the pros and cons of that. So I'll leave that for council's discussion and direction.
Okay. Any thoughts on the first part, I guess, is on the getting the site plan together and the agreement. Let's start with the parkland. the dedication.
Yep, $500.
Rebecca, you can use your microphone.
$500, what does it provide for in the Municipal Act? Isn't it 5%?
5% cash in lieu in parklands, so it's an amount previous to the development. It's not, you don't take the, as I understand, the value of each lot, you take it pre-development. So you'd probably have to see perhaps what the selling price of the land was and take the 5%. But we have used this $500 fee, for instance, for any severance that's been granted for a new residential lot. That's been a condition of severance, so it may be appropriate to consider that as well.
And the use of that is for parks, parkland, and
not necessarily creating a new parkland, but it can be to enhance present existing playgrounds as well.
Okay. Doug, Councillor Hodgson?
Just clarification, no, but isn't there development charges also involved in a new build?
Yes.
That would be on the building itself, not on the lot creation. Yeah.
Within that development charges, there is money allotted. Part of that money can be used for green space or parks or that type of thing. Is that not correct?
Yes. What is identified in your study,
Yeah.
you've gone out 5 years with. Yeah. And without Carrie being here, I'm a little hesitant to say, but I do know that I think I can say that we do have some small percentage in there on recreation facilities from the development charges. Yeah.
Not sure if that would be discounted as part of the study.
Yeah, it just seems possibly a double whammy. That's the only thing I'm thinking. If you're getting development, you're using development charges to help cover parks, recreation, and this other fee, $500, is sort of doing the same thing to a certain extent.
It goes more towards, I would say, large urban, where it was, basically it's green space. That's where we're saying parks and recreation, to make sure that there is green space available around that for a healthy environment and healthy living.
So have we done that in all other lots, in like whether it's single resident or?
Yep.
Okay.
And as we said, just for the severance, it's a $500, just set fee that's been approved through the planning process that we have, and the bylaw wasn't challenged. Any other questions on that one? Next one, Mark, is the security. I think there's been a lot of discussion around securities and whatnot. I guess I'll throw it out. I think that 50% it's to offset the risk of the developer not following through with the project. But on small projects, what is the risk to the municipality? If it's 50% of something up to 500,000, it's usually halfway done before we get to that point. So, I would suggest that going forward, instead of asking for the 110% on some of these smaller projects, we'll take 50% at the up to a $500,000 value of works, and then above that, go back if the works are above that. The risk of failure for the developer at that point in time is pretty heavy towards the municipality, so we'd go to 100% or 110%, whatever, of above the estimated cost of the infrastructure development on above 500,000. So, Bev.
Just a question, who sets the, what the estimated cost of the development?
Mark?
Typically the engineer for the consultant, however, it can be peer reviewed and typically is by ourselves, and that is paid by the developer. We have what's called a contingency fee of $5,000 that pays any legal, planning, or engineering fees that is required because of that subdivision agreement, so that can be assessed and reviewed to make sure that's appropriate, that the security is appropriate.
Yeah. And that the engineer, if it's peer reviewed by an engineer, but certainly by our director of knowing what it is to put that type of infrastructure in and costs of pavement and
And
cement.
so
and
who
asphalt.
would have the final, if the engineer says it's $390,000 and our director of infrastructure says, no, it's going to be $520,000, who actually would have the final say? Because then that puts the project over into the next category as to security. So do we have the right to say that we think the engineer is wrong, we're going with?
I would say probably at that point in time, once you got into a debate of it, you would say, well, look, fine, let's get a third-party, independent third-party engineer in, and the contractor or the developer would have to pay for that out of the, yeah.
So there is a dispute.
There's a dispute resolution in there. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we fine with about that? Doug?
Just a comment, I think it's important that we're consistent. So we're saying 50% up to approximately 500,000. Do we need to have a bylaw to put this in writing so that we know for future developments, so that everybody understands what where we're coming
I would
from?
suggest that would be appropriate, some kind of policy bylaw, typically a bylaw which is more easily researched and found as opposed to a resolution. So we would look to other, perhaps, samples that other municipalities may have and incorporate something that would be on paper, and council knows that this is the process, these are the requirements for security.
Okay, that would be good, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions on that? So we're still, obviously, we don't have the site plan in front of us, but that'll be some of the work going forward to come at a future council meeting, Mark?
Right, if there's no other objections or concerns, an updated draft bylaw will be presented at the June 5th council meeting for council's consideration, and we'd go from there.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Larry. CEO Adams.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you to council. You realize once you set this, this will be the new go-forward policy. While I understand the individual we're speaking about in regards to this situation has done a lot of work with us before, and things have worked out well for both sides. I know of 2 or 3 developers who are going to be in tomorrow morning at 8:30 wanting the same treatment, shall we say. And I am concerned that by setting this, present company excluded, that you may be opening the door to potential future costs to the municipality with other developments. So I would just urge council to consider this wisely, and whatever you decide, staff will support.
Very good. Mr. Bell, Deputy Mayor John.
Well, thanks, and I appreciate your view, Larry. I think every development has to fly on its own terms, recognizing there'll be different players, there'll be different situations. It kind of goes to who would you, and I'll use building a house, would you go with a brand new builder, or would you go with somebody that's been in business for a while? Do you buy a car from a brand new auto dealership, or do you go with somewhere who's been in the business for a while? And you know what, I agree with you that some might have more experience and some might be handled maybe differently than others. And I'm willing to put that on the table, that I think every development has to come on its own merit, depending on who's done what. And I like supporting local business. I like moving local business ahead. I think in this present economy, I think that shall we say, the municipality's risk is minimal at this present time. If that changes, we may have to revisit this. There's no doubt about that. But I think in order to keep business moving, local trades moving, I think that we might be going out a bit of a limb, but it has not been unheard of before. So I appreciate your concern, but I'll take that chance in this particular case. But like I said, I don't think it needs to be carved in stone for everybody. they'll have to present a business plan, and we're just not going to go on the assumption that everybody's the same, because businesses are not the same for everybody. And I'll stand on that, Mayor.
Okay, Rebecca? Councillor Hurd.
Just going to say, I do appreciate Mr. Tremble's business in our area. I do think that this is precedent setting though, and I believe that we're actually reducing quite a few areas to make it easier to build here, being the development charge, the parkland dedication. Like, we're seeming to take less because we know this gentleman. And like, I really do appreciate your business in our area, but because this is precedent setting and we need to make sure that we're doing the same for everybody, no matter who you are, what kind of business you have. The Municipal Act has set out how much these fees are to be in certain instances, and I feel like we should be following those, and we should not be giving an exception along the way. Thank you.
Okay. Bev? Councillor Cutting?
Well, what we just discussed was that if something is a development up to $500,000, everybody who's developing the infrastructure under that fee will be treated the same way. This is not a matter of, you know, this guy's built here and that guy hasn't. This is strictly a policy that up to $500,000 worth of infrastructure, this is the way you're going to be treated. Over that, that's the way you're going to be treated. So we are not favoring one or the other. So nobody can come in tomorrow and say, well, you treated this guy that, because if their infrastructure is over that quantity, then that's the way they're treated. So it's not saying, oh yeah, good boy, you're a great guy and you live in the community, so this is what we're going to do for you. This is saying this is a policy, this is set, and that's the way it's going to be done. So I don't see any issues with it at all.
Okay. Mark?
And that's my understanding from council direction, is the policy would be set. It's a threshold of $500,000. There is some inherent liability if you're not collecting 110% of the estimated cost of works, but it is limited by that $500,000 threshold. So yes, any developer that has planned a subdivision, that's the estimated costs are over $500,000, I believe council's direction is you're looking at 110% of the cost. So John Smith, Jill Doe, whoever comes in, that's what it'll be if this is the policy direction from council. In terms of parkland dedication fee, that $500 amount payable for each residential lot created is not for one individual. It's been applied to any lot being created for residents, as well as the development charge. That development charge is uniform for any individual creating a house, so it's not referred or preferred to one developer. It's municipal-wide a charge, so it's uniform. There's no favoritism at all.
So until we have this policy set, we're talking about, well, we think it might be 500,000, it may be this, that. Until that policy or bylaw is set, should we be talking about this any further, or we should set that policy and then we know exactly where we're headed? Thank you.
Well, we can maybe have that policy brought forward at the next meeting. And this site plan is not coming forward until the next meeting either, so I would suggest that one would be before the other. Okay? All right. Anything else? All right. Yeah.
Are we done?
I don't hear anything else on this, so Mark, we'll let you continue with working on getting the site plan with the developer. Okay? No other new business? Oh, addendums? Notice motion? Oh, sorry.
I just have
Carol?
a question under new business. You spoke of a decision on Rockwood Terrace, Grey Gables, you're expecting on the 25th.
Fifth, yeah.
Is that still the expectation, that there will be a decision or at least a recommendation made?
That was what the warden, when we finished last Thursday, May the 11th, was that there would be a recommendation coming forward to be voted on the 25th.
In council or committee of the whole?
I believe it'll be in committee of the whole.
So it'll be a recommendation to council then for the next county council session.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Anything else? Addendums, notice motion? Don't think there's any closed session. We've gone through that. Question period. At this point in time, anybody in the audience has a question? Yes, sir, if you could give your name for the record.
Don Trumbull. I still need direction. This, to get bonds and stuff takes time. I wanted to be able to come to the next meeting or before that, hand everything to Mark so my subdivision agreement can be passed. So you guys gave me about 4 options last time, and I went to Ian and said, you know what, there's option, maybe land, maybe 110%, maybe 50%, maybe a personal line of credit. So when I'm leaving here right now, I really have no more direction than when I walked in the room. So how do I have a bond prepared or a line of credit for the next meeting to meet my obligations when I don't know what I gotta have right? So the mortgage is gonna be clear, but I thought you guys said, here's 4 options. I talked to your solicitor. He didn't think the land thing was that great of an idea because of the cost. He said, so my proposal was 50% in a line of credit or guaranteed money. So I need an answer, or I'm going to be here on the 5th of June, and it'll be the same thing. I'll be another month behind. I need to start this project. This is the only thing holding up right now is this. I have my MOE supposed to be through this week, and I'm ready to go. So if you want 110%, if that's, or 50%, like, I just feel that it's such a, and when an engineer says it's going to be 385,000, how many tenders ever go over right now? Very few tenders. Like you see the tenders, they're usually under with the engineer, and this will be under. So when he said 390,000, we won't be that much, but I'm willing to pay 50% of that. I won't be able to start anything as far as, like, this project will be up and done in 2 months. Before the paperwork gets to you, I want to put foundations in the ground and build houses. I have commitments. So I don't want to leave it to another meeting. Tell me, it's going to be 50% or?
Well, I suppose if that's the case, then you'd have to go by the current, which would be the 110%. That's what the current. That's what the current is. So we're trying to work with you here and do split it so it's 500. But unfortunately, we have to get the bylaw and get it in front of us, which is the next meeting. So.
Well, there is one way that I could do that, if you would let me. The mayor deviate slightly from we could pass a motion today. I could introduce a motion with a 2/3 majority for this one to do the 50%. And then have the policy and whatnot come forward at the next meeting. But put this one in place right now, that we would do 50% irrevocable letter of credit or a performance bond at 50% of the estimated works for specifically this, and then have the policy in place. Mark?
And on June 5th, if the subdivision agreement is approved by council, you have to meet all draft plans of subdivision approval, which is entering into the subdivision agreement, paying the 5% parkland dedication. It's more or less it. I think you're pretty well satisfied everything if the agreement passes. However, I have to put a package together, which I will do very quickly. I have to send that to the county of Gray, then has to give final draft plan approval. I believe the planning director has that authority to give that. I'm not sure. the time frame on that, I suspect it may not be long, whether it's a week or weeks, I'm not sure. So there is some additional work required.
I'll bring the 5% in, or $500 lot into more. I can.
Well,
just like
yeah, I wouldn't do it until or if the agreement's passed, right?
I know it's still a process, but it will process the next meeting, and it'll be processed another 2 weeks. Like it's summertime. This is construction time to make money. So I want an answer. That's all. And if it's 110, then you know what? I'll decide. I just don't want to keep waiting.
2/3.
Would council entertain introducing a motion, a notice of motion, or a direct motion this evening? I would ask if we can put forward a direct motion at this point in time. I need 2/3 majority to do that. All in favor of a direct motion with, let's be this 50%. All in favor? Or
Just a second.
So we ready to go? So if introducing a direct motion, I need 2/3 majority. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we can introduce the motion. Councillor Lawrence is in a conflict on this. Okay, so I have a motion moved by Rob Thompson, seconded by Doug Hutchison. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves security in the form of an irrevocable letter of credit or performance bond in the amount of 50% of the estimated amount of works for the DJ Land Development Limited plan of subdivision on lands described as part of Park Lots 2 and 3 north of George Street, registered plan 500, geographic town of Durham, now the Municipality of West Grey, being PIN 37318-0515. Questions or comments? Bev?
If we approve this, we're approving basically an open-ended 50% because there is no policy to state that the reason we're doing 50% here is because the project is less than $500,000. So if we approve this, we will have every other subdivision person coming in saying, but you did it here, and we can say, well, yes, because it was below 500,000, they're going to say there was no policy stating that. You brought the policy in after the fact to make this fit, and that is very dangerous. That is what Larry is talking about. And I think we need the policy first. I'm sorry it's going to be an extra week or so, but I think we need that policy first before we can stipulate that this is going to be 50% because we've changed what we're now expected and have always expected to be done.
Point. Any other questions on the motion? Mr. Glazier. Brent?
Did I hear correctly that you said a performance bond was acceptable?
That's what's in the
The
motion.
solicitor did indicate one or the other as a possibility. I'm not sure which Mr. Trumbull is looking to obtain from the credit union. If it's irrevocable letter credit.
I need a number for.
Is it an irrevocable?
Line of credit. I need a number to give them, so see what.
Okay. Certainly a preference would be irrevocable letter credit, but the solicitor did indicate.
Just commenting that a performance bond is totally different than cash. Like, it doesn't tie up Mr. Trumbull's money. I don't know, I'm sure Don's aware of that, but I just want clarification on that, because I didn't think we were going with the performance bond, but it's been.
it's the way it's introduced. Yeah, it may not be absolute cash, but it becomes a lot more difficult for an individual that gets a performance bond and that bond is cashed. The next time for that individual, it's reputation more than anything that's going to be in a problem if that performance bond needed to be cashed.
If I can, Your Worship, Don, is it easier for you to get a performance bond, or?
I can get either, like it's just a time thing. Performance bond, I've applied for it, but it's a lot more difficult. I haven't had a track record of getting performance bonds. It's gonna happen, it could be a month. I've sent it all my financials and everything for the last, 2 years and stuff. So I'm working on that just for the future, but the line of credit I can get tomorrow. So I would like to do performance bond when it gives us the time thing.
I guess what I'm getting back to, in order to move it quickly for you, is if you were to agree to 110% performance bond, there's no issue then. No, I know. I'm just...
Mark?
I know there is in previous agreements, although there have been performance bonds permitted. I know recent discussions, I certainly believe irrevocable letter credit provides more financial solace for the municipality, because performance bonds, contractors, they can go bankrupt too. Irrevocable letter credit is basically cash. It can be, if the municipality needs it, they cash it. So that might be even something, if you're considering performance bond or irrevocable letter credit, that perhaps when it's over that 500,000 threshold, if that's what council agrees to, perhaps you only look at irrevocable letter credit, because the liability or potential risk is greater in terms of the financial implications.
So mover and seconder with that information and the discussion, want to take out the performance bond and just say irrevocable letter of credit? It's both that are in here right now. Do you want to take the performance bond out?
Yeah,
Mover says yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, I don't have any problem with, I think, at this point, but we do need to get a policy in place. I think we're sort of we're into an area, obviously looks like somewhere that we haven't been before, so we need to get something etched out here in the future, and I think this is a one-off in order to set the bar, and we know what we want to have in the future in terms of the 500,000 limit and so on. So we're getting the details ironed out. We get this done, we create our policy, and we go ahead. And I think that's where we're at. And I think we need to move this forward at this time. The economy is moving, and people are wanting to get things done. So let's get it done.
Okay. Any other discussion? So, the mover and seconder have asked that or performance bond be removed. So approve security in the form of an irrevocable letter of credit in the amount of 50% of the estimated amount of works for DJ Land Development Limited. That's the gist of the motion now. Mark?
If it provides any more solace for council, with the indulgence of the mover and seconder, you could add and further that a policy be developed and indicate by resolution what that policy is proposed to be. And then we have passed, and we do pass bylaws every council meeting, that a confirming bylaw that basically says all actions of council are by bylaw. So I think it does perhaps provide a little more protection that way, or at least if there's that argument from other developers, you can perhaps provide that direction, but that's just a suggestion.
That's a suggestion for the mover and seconder, but do you want to, the clerk is asking to add and further that a bylaw be developed the policies, the policy be developed and approved by bylaw that securities on works of $500,000 or less, be it a 50%, anything above $500,000 on development, be 110%.
I'm just thinking, wouldn't that be something separate? We're dealing with this incident, this request right now, and wouldn't that be not something we're going to look at down the road anyways as a policy? Does it need to be in there also?
Well, it was just a suggestion. I mean,
Yeah.
it's your motion. If
I'm thinking we're just, and it
wanted
does
as
say
an
in there, we're
amendment.
dealing with this one situation. I don't think it's necessary to go any further.
If it's not on there, I will not support it because it does not reference that we are building a policy of 500,000 and less and 500,000 and more. It's not referring, it's giving this gentleman priority and a one-of situation because there is no policy. If you put the fact that we're going to put a policy in place, this is the start of it, then I'll support it. Otherwise, I won't.
Doug?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, we're going on the pretense that we are going to create this policy, so by putting it in writing, then no one can really argue that, now you're going to change your mind because we have it in writing and it's there. It's a starting point.
It's not treating him special. It's pertaining to the policy.
Okay, the mover okay now with that, or?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
All right. So the motion will be what it is, and further that the policy be developed around the 50% irrevocable letter of credit or securities on site developments of $500,000 or less, and 110% maintained on infrastructure developments of more than 500,000. Okay? So let Mark wordsmith that portion. Any further discussion? Anything, Mr. Tremble?
Just on the bond in the future, when people are in here for larger projects, they're going to want to do a bond, and that's other municipalities are allowing that. So you're saying you're taking that out, like
Taking it out of this one, the policy, I think, will, in securities, would allow the bond and/or.
because other areas offer, and I say I done work 15 minutes down the road, and it was a lot more than this, and there was nothing required other than I thank you for coming to do business.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are in competition for business too against Small Forest, Hanover, Malamig, Clifford too. So it's where the market's coming here now. It's everybody wants a piece of it. So let's not miss out on the piece, whether it's me or not. Let's not miss out on the piece like the past because the factories aren't coming, but housing is coming. So whether it's coming to Hanover or Clifford or Malamig or Dundalk or Durham, the bigger projects are the ones you want. The 200 lot subdivisions, not the low 13th, not gonna, but the 200. So you have to make sure your policies in place that you attract those and not discourage them from wanting to do business here.
Correct. Point taken. Thank you. Okay, so the mover and seconder are fine with the addition. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Yep. Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Miller? Get to him. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know you said Mr. Miller. It's much appreciated. One thing you did mention there a little while back about empty plastic water bottles. If you listen to Bill Murdoch's show, he was picking up bottles somewhere up around on Sound recently, and he was disgusted with the number of empty plastic water bottles. So you and him have something in common in that respect.
I feel honored.
Now, this radon gas thing, that's, I don't know who ever thought of that idea, but this letter came from Mr. Akers. One of his financial impact, it hadn't been determined at this time, he says. And over another place, he says, no staffing implications for the corporation. Well, financial impact, we just heard you half an hour or so ago, and we have extra $500 or $600 per house. So the only way the municipality can keep ahead of it is like another $100 on a building permit. That'd keep things going, wouldn't it?
Well, I guess it would, but it wouldn't be as much on the building permit as it would be on the inspection fees. So it'll be handled through that.
Well, it'll be $100, whatever, though.
I would think that would handle with the inspection, but I'm not 100% sure on the costing.
I'd like to told you now, it's got to be inspected before when the cement floor is ready to put down, but not before it's put down. So I think the best plan is just forget about this radon gas. Besides that, I would expect the premier will want to put a tax on it too.
Well, it's radon, it's not carbon, so, but they may get there.
So anyways, I don't know, it's hard to get a question out of that, but that's my opinion about this radon gas. We've lived for years around here and never got blew up yet, so.
Nope.
And besides, the time to get it on, so I'll let you go.
Thank you. Any further questions from council? Rob?
And I don't need to go on for a long period. I just want to know, what would be the big fallout if other developers come into the area and we offer them the same package? I mean, what are we, like I think Don mentioned too, if you get other developers in the area and they develop and there's more homes and more tax base and everything else, but I just wondered, just briefly, is there something that I'm missing here that, why?
What if they walk away? Then we're held responsible for putting in the infrastructure. So yeah, there's a big chance. Yes, we can open the doors up, and yes, hopefully developers come, and yes, hopefully they do infrastructure, but we need to have the taxpayers of the municipality should not be held responsible because a couple of people come in and want to build a bunch of houses and extend services. They have to be responsible for that. So that's where it comes in. That's where you have to hold those bonds.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but you know, we're talking about 50% or 110%.
Well, 50% doesn't cover it if it's a
but
multi-million dollar.
On a small subdivision of 10 or 12 homes.
Well, that's what we're doing. That's why the policy.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't see a big hullabaloo if we offer it to all contractors or all people that want to develop small subdivisions.
Well, it will be. It'll be anybody up to $500,000
yeah.
that comes in with infrastructure under that. Yeah. Anything over that, they have to put up more because the cost is so expensive.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So there's not a real big issue for anybody else.
Okay. Councillor Lawrence. Carol?
The question's got nothing to do with what you're discussing right now. This invitation from Ellenwood, have we responded to it? Are we going to? Where they're challenging the councils of Brockton and West Grey to a trivia contest about Canada?
That was on June 10th.
Yeah.
For having the two councils, Brockton and West Grey. I was wondering if we could get closer on our committee of the whole and have a discussion on that at that time, who's available.
And then we will respond?
Yeah, it's a Saturday evening, there's a dinner and everything to it, and apparently the two councils will be part of the initial entertainment. Yes.
Well, we really have a resident expert here sitting two up from me. He probably knows more about the Canada than the rest of us do. I'm looking at our new councillor. So maybe she'll be answering for all of us.
Well, we won't get into discussion about who knows what about whose history here, so I would think that, yeah, I was going to bring that up then. I have one question. There was a question posed for whether council would support financially, throw some support to the bus that is going up on the 25th. And they were looking at having the Smart Transit bus that would be able to handle some of the individuals that are have a disability that couldn't get on to a regular school bus. And they were thinking about taking the Smart Transit, and would the municipality contribute, would council contribute to that? Question.
Can't we do it individually? Like, is there some way to do it individually? I don't think it should come out of taxpayer dollars, because it's a choice of individuals as to go or not, but I certainly don't see any reason why council can't contribute to that, like we have in the past for different things.
Yep. Lead, Rob?
Tomorrow night's the AGM for the Chamber of Commerce, and we've been talking about the last several meetings on what we could do with some of the funds there, and I wonder if I could bring that forward to tomorrow night from the Chamber, since Nella is the chair of the Chamber and is kind of the driver behind these transportation issues going back and forth on Sound. So I wonder if I could bring that forward tomorrow night and ask for a donation from the Chamber to cover the costs.
And give us an understanding whether they're going to cover it or not. And
yeah, we should get an answer tomorrow night at the meeting. And
okay,
if that's okay with everyone.
If you could let us know after that, Rob, we'll send out an email, and if they still need some, Bev has volunteered to be the coordinator for reaching into everybody's pocket. And
I like doing that.
well, that's on TV. I hope people realize that. And seeing if individual council members would throw a few dollars towards that. That'd be good.
Do we
Carol?
have any idea, John, what the cost would be?
I'm sorry, Councillor Lawrence, I don't know what the cost is for the bus. No, I cannot tell you that. And obviously, I think it's by ridership, and I think there's needs to be so many guaranteed to be able to use the bus before you order the bus. So I just don't know those figures. But phone Roger at Smart tomorrow, and I'm sure he could get those figures. That's about all I can tell you on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would be
Bevis.
nice to have the smart bus up there.
Well, Bevis just said it's hard to get the figures because we don't know how many would be going until day before.
If it's per person, then it's hard to...
Well, he'd give you what it is for a full bus. I think it's 30?
It's 30 per person.
30-person bus. So,
Mhm.
you know, if it was full, here's what the cost would be.
And must they all be, have some disability to ride on it, or
No.
others can ride?
They're, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's usually a one-to-one. If somebody has a disability, then an aide can go with them.
Okay.
But coming out of a lot of the work is done in the nursing homes, and I don't know just how tight that is on.
That's one advantage that keeping the beds in Durham has, is the smart. Because at this point in time, Grey Highlands is not part of that. It would make a nice statement to have the smart transport there.
Yep.
And certainly there are some, like, I've been taking a member of the committee who has a walker who cannot ride on the bus, so I've been taking him up in the car, so she's not the only one, but, yeah.
Well pointed. Councillor Hutchison, Doug?
I believe in the rallies that they've sold T-shirts and have done some fundraising, so it's not like they haven't done some fundraising already for transportation, right? So with the T-shirt sales and donations, I believe they have raised some money, right, so far.
I believe they're still trying to cover the cost of the shirts. We haven't, yes. There hasn't been enough
Okay.
collected to pay the cost of the shirts at this point.
Okay. There, we've got that one covered. Carol?
Are
Still on questions?
Yes?
Well, I haven't got a question, I got a statement. I was asked to check at the multi-municipal wind meeting if anyone knew of this municipality to the south that had put a policy, or at least a bylaw in place, a moratorium. And no one has any knowledge. And what the general feeling throughout is that there's, it's under the province, and as long as it meets the MDS and so on, you can't put a moratorium on. And no one knew of any turbines and intensive livestock mix anywhere. So
Yeah.
it would seem that you have to go by whatever the regulations are, and it's under the province. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Under both those regulations. Okay, thanks, Carol. Any other questions?
One more before I leave.
We've got 34 seconds.
Just, I think on the assumption that would cost the town money if I went halfway through the project and left. I don't know how it would cost Jews any money when it's on my land. It'd be no different than the empty lots there now. If I was to put the water and sewer in there and left without putting the roads in, what cost would you have on that? It would just be the, that's why you keep thinking the cost. It's gonna. We're not putting a new sewer system in. We're not doing none of that stuff for these developments. Anything that's done, it's done on our land. So you still would get your taxes, or you'd end up with the land back. So it's not like these projects are tearing up Main Street. You're going to leave halfway through tearing Main Street up to do it. So I still have a really hard time thinking that.
So
the cost.
it does happen where proposed developer does go bankrupt. Glen Elk Highland Estates is such an example that happened back in the 80s or 90s. The township of Glen Elk had to take that development over. They had to sell the lots. But I'll give you one situation. So there is a development, a plan of subdivision. Maybe the estimated cost of works are $3 million. The municipality only gets 50% of that or none of it. So the developer gets final draft approval. They sell every single lot. They haven't put the services in, everything else, but they sold all the lots. Where's the municipality going to get that money from?
They sell the lots to who?
The developer could potentially sell the lots prior to putting in the services, potentially. And then, therefore, the municipality would not have any lots left to sell.
$25,000 deposit, which is covered by carry-on. I can't take more than $25,000 deposit on any house, and that's guaranteed. And but
It's not the.
you don't have no cost.
It's not the lot. It's not the house. It's the lots.
Same thing, I mean, you can't lot or house any property as a registered bill, maybe it's you as a individual, as a registered bill, by law, I cannot take more than $25,000 for the deposit on the lot or whatever. It's covered by carry-on, like that's what carry-on's there for. I just think we're putting a little bit more into, we're gonna be stuck with this, and this is the 2000s where, you know, I wouldn't mind being stuck with that land over there for $350,000 after it was partially developed or whatever. I just think you have to look to the future. There's no factors coming here, guys. You got to come up with some kind of plan to pay our tax dollars to our base to keep our cost of living in this area. And not because I'm a developer, not because just I live here, and I wonder, without new housing or new construction, how are you guys going to come up with the money to pay for the tax dollars, other than keep raising taxes? So you should be promoting that, because I don't think Honda's coming here. For some reason, they don't want to come to Durham.
No, and they want to get out of Alliston, from what I understand too.
Yeah, I'm just saying that
I know.
in the future you should try to get developed, whether it's because it adds a lifetime. 13 houses are going to be 13 years, 13 tax for life, no matter what, for life. So I think you need to really welcome other developers here, because they're being welcomed other places. Instead of so many policies, let's work with them. Not because it's now going to be who's going to walk them, where they're going to want to go. So thanks a lot. I really do appreciate what you do, and I'm thinking more, I'm not so much thinking of these 13 lots, I'm thinking of the 200 top of the hill that I want to make happen. And I just, if I have to come up with $13 million to make it happen, I don't know if that's going to happen. But thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Don. All right. Any other questions? This has been the best question period we've ever had. Not until you take the headphones off back there, Adam. Yep, not answering. That's it. Then we're down to one last resolution. Oh, sorry, Larry.
Just before we move to that one last resolution, I apologize, Councillor Hergert. I got an email from Union Gas today. They are going to be doing some door-to-door surveys in the communities of Neustadt and Ayton to ascertain the interest in gas being brought to those municipalities. There's currently funding available at the provincial and federal level, and they're looking to expand into certain areas. So there will be people who are hired by Union Gas going door to door doing surveys in those areas. So I just wanted council to be aware of that. So, and we'll put something up on the website that these people are actually from Union Gas and they would like your input, and even provide them potentially with an email that they could contact people if they do have questions over and above what the individuals coming door to door can provide for them. It's a very exciting opportunity, I believe. It's something that's been requested by both Neustadt and Ayton communities ever since I've been here, and years before that, I'm told as well. So I just wanted council to be aware of that and not be caught, who are these people going door to door and why? So just for your information.
Okay. Well, we'll get that out there so that the community knows. Doug?
Yeah, I think that's important, Larry, to communicate to the people, because there are these door-to-door fly-by-nighters sort of thing. Is there any way we could do like a press release, or are they doing a press release in terms of getting it out, maybe the newspapers would be another way of getting that information out there?
I would suggest, since this is something by a private corporation, that we leave any type of press release or anything like that to them to make out. I believe in my conversation they did say they're going to do some advertising, which I believe is paper type advertising, but they did ask if we could just put it on our website. Okay?
Okay. It's exciting news. Something that, as you said, it's been quite a time, and natural gas seems to be one of those essential services that are required out there for developers. Okay. If that's it, Rebecca moves that we adjourn. Number 20. Thank you very much. I'll accept that, and we stand adjourned.
you.